And good evening and welcome to the February 23rd meeting of the Murfreesboro City School Board. Those of you that are here in the audience, we're glad to have you. Those of you that are watching at home, we're glad to have you watching as well. At this time, I'm going to ask you to please stand as Lisa Van Cleve will lead us in our pledge, followed by a moment of silence. You'll want to remember board member Wes Ballard's wife, who had surgery this week and had some little, not complications from the surgery, but otherwise, but want to remember them in our thoughts and prayers. Ms. Van Cleve? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now our moment of silence. Thank you. Well, let me remind board members, please, if you will, to remove your mask when you speak so that audio and the TV audience can understand everything we are doing. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? You have been sent the agenda earlier and you've had a chance to review it. Have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you.
Barton.
Barton, thank you. It happens, let me tell you. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I will second that.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. All right. Consent items. Approval of the board minutes and school fees and second reading of a couple of board policies. Do I have a motion to approve the consent items?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move for the approval of the consent items.
Thank you, Mr. Settles. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Any question or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. All right, action items. Mr. Ring, staff?
Yes, sir. Previously, you have approved us to have a synchronous day tomorrow, Wednesday, February 24th. We are now asking you to move that asynchronous day to Friday, February the 26th. We understand there's a very, very good chance that we will have the vaccine and be able to start administering it to our employees on that Friday. At the same time, you also approved an asynchronous day on Friday, March 19th. We're asking you to move that to Friday, March 26th. That would give us the required 28 days between doses. So I'm asking you to move the synchronous day approved Friday and to move that to a couple days later, Friday, February 26th, and move the March 19th to March 26th.
Okay. Have a motion to approve the recommendation from the interim director.
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Settles. Any discussion or question? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? And there is none. Thank you. We have an update on the calendar that is included with what with this.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, those
Yes.
days. Okay.
And we've communicated that to the parents with understanding that's board approval, pending board approval. So
Okay,
we thank you very much for doing that.
All right. Approval of a one-time stipend.
Yes, sir. Last month, the Tennessee General Assembly passed legislation to give BEP-funded positions, all certified positions or most certified positions, a 2% increase for 6 months. Now, that's basically 1% of their yearly salary. They didn't put anything in for classified, which they hardly ever do. I know the board likes to give all employees something. So what we met as a team, came up with what we think is a good solution, used the money that the state gave us for the 2% for the salary certified individuals plus the nurses, and then give a flat $250 to full-time classified personnel and $100 to part-time personnel, part-time employees. We're going to do this, since it's a one-time stipend, one-time occurrence that it ends on June 30th. It's no continuation. Instead of putting it in their paychecks each month, it's hard to take something away from employees once you give it to them in a monthly paycheck. So we're going to do a one-time payment on May 15th. If you're paid on monthly, if you're biweekly, it's May 19th. So we're going to give them that money in May. And you have to be currently employed, actively employed on the date that basically we want you to finish the school year with us. Even if you're on leave of absence, on paid or unpaid leave of absence, FMLA leave, a COVID leave, military leave, or workers' comp, you would still be eligible to receive this. So we're asking for your approval for us to do this, and so we can get the ball rolling and go with it.
So that will mean that every employee will get something.
Every employee will get something. Now, this does not pertain to substitute teachers,
Okay.
because we helped them out last meeting.
All right. Ms. Barton?
I would just like to say, there is no way we can ever repay employees in the school system, any school system, for this last year. But any small thing, I think, any gesture that we could make to let them know how much we appreciate what they've done, appreciate the changes and the transitions and everything they've gone through, I'm all about it. And I'm so glad we also want to include the EAs and people like that too, because those poor people have done, they've done everything. So I'm thrilled that we're going to do this.
Thank you.
Do I assume that is a motion to accept?
I would like to make that a formal motion. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Any other question or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
Reports and information?
First is our enrollment PTR report, Mr. Marlin.
Doing a little dance there. Good evening, Board. Wanted to share this report with you. We do this every month. And there you have 4 different sheets. The first sheet that I want to talk with you about is the PTR sheet. That gives us the pupil-teacher ratio, which is one of the metrics that you said you'd like to see each month. If you look at the bottom of that report under regular education PTR, you can see that for grades K through 3, we're at 18.39 students per teacher. And 4th through 6th grades, we're at 19.96.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm trying to find this. What do you call this one?
This is the PTR,
The first one.
the first one.
Enrollment, PTR.
Yes, sir. Not enrollment, but
I got you.
PTR.
I got you.
Okay.
Thank you.
At the bottom, so you'll see that grades 4 through 6 are at 19.96 average, and then for the district totals, we're at 18.94. So I just want to point out there so that I don't think we have any reporters here tonight, but sometimes they'll look at those numbers and get those confused. This is not enrollment. This is just the pupil-teacher ratio. So the second sheet of those is the enrollment numbers. We do take numbers from that first sheet to add in here, and you'll see them in the left-hand column under K6 general education totals. But our total enrollment for this time period, and this is the fifth 20-day time period, which ended January 26th. So we'll have a new one, which should have ended tomorrow, but because of the snow, it'll end next week, and we'll have that at the future board meeting. But so our total enrollment for that time period was 8,974. You see underneath that the green total line there, the 2 columns, the 2 rows at the bottom. You can see that 8,561 of those are BEP funded, and then the 413 of those are non-funded by the BEP. And when you look at the growth figures to the right-hand side, you can see that we're still 284 short of where we ended last year. And we've talked about that in the past to explain where we think those children are. And then the average attendance for that period was 95.7%. So that's that's that number, and we've talked about that, how that number is. That is just an average of averages. And to go into greater detail, if you look at the next sheet, which is our truancy information, through this time period, we have 321 students who are possibly truant. And when I say that, what I mean by that are schools are still working with parents to get information to make sure that they have turned in notes. Because the difference between truancy and chronic absenteeism is we're only counting unexcused absences here. So as schools work with families and they're working through the process, and in our district, because of the policies that we put forth, we work with parents over a period of time before we ever file truancy on them. So we want to make sure that we're giving them every opportunity to, to make a good faith effort to have their children in school. So that number is higher. I'll gather up some data in the future to share with you over time periods, so we can look back 2 and 3 years, in the past and see where we are relative to them. This is an unusual year, of course, and everybody understands that part. And then the last page is the chronic absenteeism. And if you'll look at the bottom, at the total, you can see we have 1,303 students who might possibly be chronically absent this year. At this rate, if they keep going, that we have that many that could possibly be chronically absent. And so what we're looking for is, if you'll notice, that number has declined since the last period. We expect more and more children to fall off this list because they're not averaging 2 days every month. And so hopefully we'll have some, good, healthy springtime weather, and we'll see this number decline over and over again. If you look at the last 3 schools on the list, you can see how that really is taking place. So you can look at scales and see that they started with 109 students who could possibly be considered chronically absent. Now that number's down to 80. So that's the way that we expect that number to decline over time. The same is true at Salem, same is true at Reeves Rogers, and several schools throughout that list.
Joey, when we were doing the virtual learning and kids were at home, if a child did not log in during the day, then they were considered absent. Am I correct?
That is, and that's varied some at schools. Some schools allowed them to turn in work, and if they turned in work at the end of the week, which indicated that they had been engaged in actively working on the school work, some schools allowed that to be considered present. And so it varied a little bit from school to school, and it's really hard for us to say exactly how those numbers ran across the district.
Okay. Other questions? All right, do we have a motion then to accept the report as printed?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. We have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Suttles. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Revenue and expenditure report.
Ms. Beth Prater.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight's financial reports go through the month of January, and I've included a highlight sheet along with a comparison report, a revenue report, and an expenditure report. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Any questions? Do we have a motion then to accept the reports as printed?
Do we need to?
I don't think so.
I don't guess, well, no, we really don't need a motion, do we? Okay, all right, thank you, Beth, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Personnel report.
Yes, sir. This is a report of who we've hired for the month of January, from January 15th to February the 22nd. We've hired a couple of interims, certified interim teachers, and we've lost very few teachers in the last month. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me regarding that.
Okay.
The next item, I asked Ms. Darla Sampson, who's coordinator of school health, and Sarah Walker, who's nursing supervisor, to come up tonight to explain to you what we're going to do on Friday, our plan to vaccinate about 800 employees. These two individuals have been instrumental in making Friday possible. I've been nervous for the last week because of the bad weather, the vaccines were stalled at one location, and we didn't know if we were going to get them by Friday. But we got some very good news today that we're 98% sure that we will have them Friday for our employees. So I'm going to basically turn it over to these two.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As of Monday, the state officially moved to Phase 1B, which includes school staff. And I'm very pleased to tell you, after completing an application and passing some stringent requirements, MCS was approved to be a provider. This means that we can receive and store vaccine, and our nurses can administer the shots. The response for COVID vaccine has been overwhelming. We currently have 789 staff signed up, and we expect to reach 800 by Friday. The plan is to move 25 people through every 15 minutes. You have the plan in your packet in front of you. Looks like this, with some diagrams as well to help you understand what's going on. But based on the advice of public health officials, we have decided to host the event at one school site. And we want to thank LaShann Dixon, the interim director of the Rutherford County Health Department, for her continued guidance and support. Doing it this way allows us to give the vaccine as soon as possible after receiving it, which was our goal. How it will flow is participants will park and come inside the gym at our chosen school. They will check in, we'll check their ID, we'll verify their employment. We are only vaccinating MCS staff. They will then move to a verbal assessment, and they'll answer some questions pertaining to their health as it relates to the vaccine. The next stop is a written assessment, and that's where they complete their paperwork and sign off. Next, they're ready to see one of our nurses or a Murfreesboro Fire and Rescue paramedic for their shot. Murfreesboro Fire and Rescue has graciously agreed to help us, and we're so thankful. After that, they will leave the gym, go back to their cars, and wait for 15 minutes to monitor for possible adverse reactions. EMS will be nearby in the lot, and we also have Jack Heydrich of Barfield Clinic inside. He agreed to be our medical director for COVID vaccination, and we thank him for his guidance and for overseeing this process. We are so appreciative of MPD, who will also be at the entrance and exits to help with the traffic flow. So we're taking on big undertaking. Murfreesboro Fire and Rescue will be handling setup Thursday afternoon, and we have a list of about 27 staff from across the district who will be helping outside of the nurses. So vaccinating our staff helps our community by relieving the health department and other providers so they can focus on the rest of the community. Getting vaccinations to our staff as soon as possible should put MCS on a path to a more normal routine and schedule, and I think we're all ready for that. Sarah has some more just about the shot and all the medical aspects.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So we are getting the Moderna vaccine. It's an IM injection, goes in the muscle. We're going to give it in the arm. It's a 2-dose series. As Ralph said, it's separated by 28 days. So you get the first one, and then 28 days later, you'll get the second. All vaccines work a little differently, but they all, when you get a vaccine, it makes memory cells in your body so that those memory cells remember how to fight the COVID later down the line. So I know you guys have heard lots of side effects from the vaccine, the first dose. It's possible to get some side effects from that, flu-like symptoms. It is more common to get that after the second dose. Another reason we did it on a Friday, so we could let everybody heal up before Monday, before they come back to work. Couple things: you cannot get COVID from the vaccine. It's not a live vaccine. That doesn't happen. With the vaccine, I know everybody thinks, oh, we're vaccinated and everything's great. The things we're still going to have to do, unfortunately, until we get that herd immunity in the community, wear our masks, stay 6 feet apart, all of that is still going to have to happen. Of course, together, everyone getting vaccinated, we will be able to fight this in the long run. So Any questions about the vaccine itself? Yep.
Ms. Barton?
Kudos. Can't even imagine trying to put this together, having watched other people do it. And again, I have to shout out to police and fire and rescue because they are such good partners with us and always have been. But anyway, what is the percentage of employees that have agreed to take the shots? Can I say that, or can I ask that? Or do we know that?
We have
maybe?
about 2,000 employees, so 800, it's about 40%.
Many have received it.
Oh, okay, so they've received it somewhere else, and that's why they're not.
In another
Okay.
nearby county, so we've been
Right.
able to give more vaccine for those that are added. We've removed about 44 so far who've emailed me and let me know, I've got the vaccine already.
Okay.
And so we've added 92.
Fabulous.
Also, the vaccine itself after the second dose, 2 weeks after the second dose,
Right.
is about 94.1% effective. It's pretty high number, so.
That is.
And after you get your second dose, you do not have to you do not have to be quarantined.
Oh,
Correct. That has
really?
changed with the CDC, the state health department. 2 weeks after, 14 days, after your second dose, then you do not have to quarantine. For right now, it's 3 months. They are still researching that. So hopefully they'll extend that time, but right now it's 90 days. I also want to give a shout out to LaShann at the health department. She took Ashley and I to the health department, or to State Farm today, and we got to go walk around, see how that's done. We had planned our pod based on what they were doing, and so we got to see the little details and make the tweaks for our pod. And Darlene Autumn went.
I can't
last
thank
week.
her, I cannot thank her enough either. She spent 2 hours before we ever drafted this, letting us go through, the pod at State Farm. And that was, seeing it is different than imagining it. So it was really, really helpful.
It's
Yeah,
a
and
well-oiled
even after
machine.
us seeing it today, there was so many little things that we just were like, oh yeah, we got to do that. So little tweaks to ours. I think it's going to run super smooth on Friday, so fingers crossed.
thank you so much. At State Farm, are they doing testing and vaccinating at the same spot? Because I know
think
sometimes,
so.
and I just wondered.
I think so, but I mean, if they were, you don't, it's
That-
so well oiled that you don't
Can't tell the
even-
difference, right?
Yeah, you can't
I'm
tell.
not sure they do it at the same location, but I'm not sure they're doing it at the same time.
Got you,
Yeah,
got you.
might be it.
And the city school system has moved forward, right? So we're starting ours on the 26th, which is this Friday. And of course, I shouldn't say it like that, but how's the county doing? Have they,
We don't know.
we don't know? Okay, that's all I'll say.
We know how well we're doing.
We know how well we're doing.
That's right.
That's great.
Thank you, ladies, very much, and for all of your hard work. And Ms. Barton says, it's hard to imagine putting something together like this and having it ready to go, and I'm sure that on Friday it's going to run very, very smoothly. Very smooth. All right, we have anything else to come before this board tonight? I have one thing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just a quick question, and Ralph, you may have already addressed this, but with last week and what we've used for asynchronous days, how many snow days do we have left?
We used 5 and we had 13, so we have 8 more. And a synchronous day doesn't count against you.
I thought something counted against snow days. Didn't it used to? No?
Well, synchronous days, they're very, very.
Okay, no, PD, professional development days, don't they?
We really didn't have any this year. We had them previously in the calendar, but we took those out when we started a week late.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Well, not that we're going to need them or anything, but I'm just,
Sure.
just curious.
yes, we have 8.
Well, I want to, I'm sorry, Ms. Moore.
You're going to say the same thing you are. It's the same.
Okay, I want to take just a minute. This will be Ralph Ringstaff's last official meeting as our interim director. You have been as interim director since, is it March 26th?
May
What?
26th.
May 26th. Well, I did some calculating today.
Uh-oh.
279 days as of today. 39 weeks and 6 days. 6,696 hours. and you really labored through 401,760 minutes, along with 24,105,600 seconds. You have been a real trooper.
I slept for about 20 of those hours.
Speaking for me as board chair, and our communications has been excellent, and I would assume it has been with other board members too, but I want to publicly say thank you for the job you have done. You have been wearing two hats for a long time, and you have done well in both of them, and I thank you very much, and I'm going to let other board members, if they want to express any gratitude, they can. Ms. Moore?
Yes, I was thinking about this, and Mr. Ringstaff, you've taken on this job through some of the hardest circumstances I think the school system has faced. I mean, you took over immediately after the sudden passing of Dr. Gilbert in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, that's two really big things, and you've just done a fantastic job. I've had a good experience working with you. I've heard great things from the staff, and so I want to thank you for that. And I do want to say it now because I can't come on Friday to your reception, and I'm sorry I will not be there. So this is my chance to tell you thank you, and I've really enjoyed it.
You didn't even know.
Was it really?
No.
Oh my gosh, my stomach just hit the floor. Okay. Thanks, Ralph. No, thanks to you.
I contributed to my gift.
Ms. Barton?
Okay, I feel like I've said too much, but I have to say something about Ralph. You know, you've done a fabulous job. I've worked for a lot of directors, and I would have loved to work for you. And I know the teachers really appreciate you. I know central office staff really appreciates you, and thanks.
Mr. Richardson?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and thank you. Clearly, these have been trying circumstances, and it takes quite a bit of fortitude to rise to that challenge. You've heard that tonight. What I want to say to you and for the whole community is that you are the real deal. Your heart for students, for teachers, EAs, support staff, food, buses, it's real, it's palpable, it just oozes from you. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
I'd like to say something.
No, you got to wait on me. I really don't have much to add because everybody said everything, and but sincerely, this has been a monumental task. The fact that you were up for it, and I have noticed that you have not lost any hair. None of it seems to have gone any grayer, and you're still smiling. You've always had that winning smile through everything, and it's not been easy. So for that, I say thank you, because this has been a really, really, really huge challenge. So thank you for that. I think you stepped into some very big shoes to fill, and there's no way, absolutely no way, that you can make everybody happy. We know that. But I think you came pretty close to hitting it out of the park on making everybody happy. I've heard only great things, and thank you for agreeing to step in and all that you had to go through, even just to get to this point. I appreciate it. Thank you, Ralph.
Okay, before Ralph says anything, I know we don't usually do this, but I think Mr. Bryson would like to say something, if that's okay.
That's fine. Yes, sir, Mr. Bryson.
So, I'm not much of a talker, but,
That is such a lie. Keep going.
you know,
That's not what your faculty said.
but when I think about it, this has been, like we all know, from a school leader point of view, the hardest year that I could ever imagine. And Mr. Ringstaff took this position, and it was almost destined to be a failure. You know, it's impossible. It's impossible to succeed in COVID and all this. But Ralph is the reason we were able to be successful. Like, I back Ralph from here on out. This guy got us through probably the hardest you will ever see. So, Ralph, I appreciate you, man. And we couldn't have done it without you. So I'll probably say some more later, but you're a rock star, Mr. Ringstaff.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
And the good thing about it is you're not going anywhere.
You better not.
You're going to be with us for a few more years anyway, we hope. All right, anything else coming for you? Oh, I'm sorry, Ralph wants to speak?
Your time's up.
At this time, I won't be able to say anything about the person who had the position as director of schools for me without getting emotional, but I would like to comment on the type of school board that you are. I've been where you are. I've been a school board member for 8 years. I worked with school boards throughout my teaching administrative career. Having a school board like you makes all of our jobs much easier. Your support that you give to not only the director of schools, but the teachers, the staff, it's unbelievable. You always have an ear to listen. You always seek to understand before you vote on the issues. You look for the positives in our school system. We couldn't have done it without you. We could not have survived this year without you. And I want to thank you very much for doing what you do. Thank you.
And we look forward to working just as hard with Mr. Duke when he comes in on March the 1st. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Anything else for this board tonight? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Settles. All in favor say aye and good night.
Aye.
Aye.